Well, the other big emissions reduction announcement this week is the government's electric vehicles initiative. But car manufacturers themselves have complained the plan doesn't include any vehicle emissions standards because in Europe, China and America, manufacturers are penalised if their cars' emissions exceed certain levels. But Australia is the only nation in the OECD without such regulations. This means we've become something of a dumping ground for cars with older, dirtier technology, and that affects the price of electric vehicles. So it means that car makers might have a fight on their hands to win over the Australian public. But according to our next guest, converting petrol heads, rev heads, yobbos such as myself to electric vehicles might be as simple as dumping us behind the wheel and seeing if we like it. Daniel Bleakley is the man behind the online series Coal Miners Driving Teslas.
Oh, hey guys, fancy meeting you here. Just plant it.
Whoa!
Holy dead. To be clear, this is a 100 km/h road. Hard, go hard, hard, hard. All the way. Yeah, that takes a little bit of getting used to. So here we are at Parliament House again.
I don't think that's wrong with this situation, so I don't have my coffee.
Keep going, keep going, keep going.
Hits you like a rocket ship.
And you get to feel like you're in a spaceship.
Right, well that'll sell cars, won't it?
Yes, see that?
Daniel Bleakley joins us now from Adelaide. Can I have a go?
Yeah, absolutely, Alan. Yeah, thanks for having me. It sounds like you beeped out all the good bits.
I know. I was thinking when they said they were going to use a bit of it, I was thinking, well, we won't be able to hear any of it. People just swear and swear and swear when they put their foot down. What are they driving? Are they driving something high performance or is it just a regular Tesla?
Yeah, so that's a Tesla Model 3 Performance. So it is one of the high performance models. But yeah, that particular car does 0 to 100 in about 3.3 seconds, which is faster than a Lamborghini. So often, yeah, people will swear, but they probably don't mean to, but it just happens.
Okay. And that is one of the issues for your rev head, for your petrol head, which, is a lot of the country, is whether or not it's got the grunt, whether or not you've got the thrill of car ownership that comes with it. I love that you're a Central Queensland person, and that you went up to your hometown, which is as close as you can get to the Adani mine and still find a petrol station, and you took the Tesla and tried to convert the locals. How'd that work out?
Yeah, well, as you can see from the videos, it worked really well. But it's really unfortunate that over the last few years there's been so much misinformation around electric vehicles. A lot of that's come from the media over the last couple of decades. And to be honest, a lot of it's come from the federal government with some of the comments that Scott Morrison made before the 2019 election. But the truth is, when you do get people in regional communities, when you do allow them to experience electric vehicles and get them behind the wheel, they realise that these cars are incredible. They're much more powerful than petrol and diesel cars. They're much cheaper to run. They're cheaper to maintain. And they're just incredibly enjoyable vehicles to drive. And
I love the story that you didn't actually reckon that, given your background as a campaigner, you'd be the one to persuade people. So you threw the keys of the Tesla to your brother, is that right, who is a coal miner, and he took it out?
Yeah, that's right. So I grew up in, my hometown is Claremont in central Queensland, which has become famous over the last few years because it's the closest town to the Adani mine. And yeah, I grew up there, but I've been a very active, climate activist over the last couple of years. So there's a fair bit of tension there for me.
Must make Christmas interesting.
What's that, sorry?
Must make Christmas interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough because certain elements of the media and certain politicians have tried to drive a wedge between regional coal mining communities and people who want action on climate, whereas actually we're really all in this together. And the transition to clean technology and the transition especially to electric vehicles is going to benefit everyone. And that's really what I've tried to do with this project, is to show that.
Kudzo, there's so many questions that people have about electric vehicles. I mean, Daniel's dealing with the one about whether or not it's a fun car to drive, which, despite what anyone might say, is actually, if you're going to part with a lot of money, you do want that question answered. But there's a whole heap of other points, aren't there? There's price, there's range, there's all sorts of questions that have to be overcome to get over the hesitancy of Australians to really embrace electric vehicles.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I was interesting, that comment around can do capitalism versus don't do government. It's this sort of false dichotomy that you've got to do one or the other. Whereas the role of government is really to create an environment that is conducive to people making a climate positive choice, in my mind. So when you think about the sorts of levers government would have to try and simplify that choice environment for people, there's the on-road costs. So what does it actually cost me to get the car onto the road? So there's stamp duty, other taxes, insurance, third-party insurance. There are lots of things that government have a real role to play in that give a signal and actually support industry to do better, and they're crying out for that. And then once you've got it on the road, I mean, you can see what's happening in the UK with petrol prices, obviously not directly related to climate crisis at the moment, lots of factors for their petrol prices rising, but that I think will also play into people's thinking around, okay, can I actually even afford to drive a petrol powered car if I'm paying $150 equivalent to, to fill it up, and then I'm driving it along to some coral reef somewhere that's bleached beyond recognition because I've been driving this gas guzzler for the last 10 years. So there's a lot of factors at play that will, I think, move people across. But at the centre of that, we have governments and the roles that they have to play in actually making that decision a positive one, and one that actually feels like is supported from industry, government, and to support that individual choice at the end of it.
Daniel, you'd have to have a great faith in a higher power to attempt to drive a Tesla from Claremont to Brisbane, because there wouldn't be any charging stations on the way, would there be?
No, well, that's just not true. There are charging stations the whole way up. I didn't have any problems whatsoever. I mean, the Tesla supercharging stations will do 800 kilometres of charge per hour. The new version 3 Tesla charging stations will actually do 1,500 kilometres per hour. So that's a 500 kilometre charge in 20 minutes. And my car, has a range of 460 kilometres. So really, you're not limited by the range of the battery anymore. You're limited by how often you need to stop and take toilet breaks, or stop for a coffee and whatnot. So this idea that modern electric vehicles don't have the range, it's just a myth. And we need to remember that electric vehicles are the only threat to the oil industry, and the oil industry is incredibly powerful. And the oil industry generates over $2 trillion US every year. It's around 4 billion per day. So every day that the oil industry can delay the uptake of electric vehicles is worth $4 billion globally. So they put a lot of money into these fear and misinformation campaigns. They seed it into the media. And, I get asked all the time all these crazy things about exploding batteries or all this other crazy stuff that just isn't true. So we have to remember that there's just a lot of large vested interests that want to suppress the uptake of electric vehicles. And I think we've seen that reflected in the government's policy announcement yesterday. We know that Santos sponsored the Australian pavilion at COP26. Santos is one of the largest oil companies in Australia, and electric vehicles are the biggest threat to Santos's profits.